Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very, very proud to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And, of course, we are coming to you from the Bradshaw Bourbon Studio. Good evening, everyone. I see Dan's in. I see Jen's in. Welcome to those of you that are watching live right now, just not chiming in, and that's totally fine. You don't have to do that. And, of course, welcome to all of you that will listen or watch at your leisure. I don't know. Everybody says that differently. Ben should be coming along at some point. He has been gone the last couple weeks, and then we're without Scarpino tonight. Scarpino's child is not behaving. And
he's growing teeth.
That's code for he's growing teeth. And tonight was supposed to be a special night, everybody, because Scarpino did the dry January thing. And as you know, today's February 1st, and he was looking to just rip it tonight. And now, maybe not. Although, and Ian, you know better than me, when a child is teething, you might want to have a drink.
You probably want to have a few, yes. And maybe rub a little whiskey on their gums, too.
I did it to my kids several times, and, that's probably why they're alcoholics now. No, I'm kidding.
I did not do it with my kids, but I've heard that it works.
So. It is it brings them down a little. I don't know that it's right up there with Tylenol, but it does the job for sure. Anyway, welcome in. I see Melvin's here now, and Aaron. Welcome to you guys.
Hi, Aaron.
And man, ice cold teething ring. Yes, that's good too. I think it was my son. I think like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So anyway, when Ben shows up. We don't really need. And anyway, we will just carry on here. And Ian, I'm just gonna throw this out there, but when you saw that Arthur Smith, and by the way, Arthur Smith, it sounds like a portrait studio in Sears or something. When I first saw that, hello, someone's joining us there on the side.
Yeah, Maggie's decided
Maggie's chilling.
Say hi.
Okay.
Took a very late nap today. So
good. You know what? So did I. Arthur Smith. What's like one or two words that came to mind when you heard this was the guy?
My initial reaction was kind of just, oh, really? Like, I mean, it feels fine, but uninspiring, I guess, it feels very safe. It feels very much in trend with what the Steelers have done. And I think I mentioned this to you guys on Slack. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast or not, but the Steelers, like, since Cowher was hired, have hired a ton of coaches from the Marty Schottenheimer coaching tree. Like, if you look up the coaches in the Schottenheimer tree, a lot of them have coached at some point for the Steelers.
Absolutely.
Mike Tomlin's under the Tony Dungy branch. Obviously, Cowher coached for Schottenheimer, and Wisenhunt coached for Cowher, and Malarkey, and a bunch of other guys. And now you've got Arthur Smith, who coached under Malarkey and Wisenhunt, under that same branch. And so it just feels like a lot more of the same. The people who are watching this live are gonna get some entertainment tonight with Maggie making faces and being able to see herself. The people who are listening later are not going to get the full experience of the show.
You really might want to watch to see what's going on here.
Yes. Yeah. But at any rate, it just feels like more of the same. And I think I have said on the show before that basically since Chan Gailey left in the mid-90s to go be the coach of the Cowboys, we have been running essentially the same offense. There were a few tweaks here and there, but this once again feels like more of the same.
And that's where I was, and you used the word that I used in one of the articles I wrote this week, uninspired. I think I said practical, but uninspired. And I get why they went with him. Tomlin did not lie when he told everybody that he wanted a guy that had play calling experience in the National Football League. And so they brought in Gerard Johnson, a quarterback's coach. They brought in Thomas Brown, who was an OC for 1 year in Carolina, and we know what a mess that was. And I don't put much of the blame on him for that. They had a terrible offensive line, no skill players, nothing. So it was almost just kind of like, well, what's happening here? And then all of a sudden they interview Smith and Art Rooney spoke, and boom, there it is. And Art said Mike had the call 100%. So I'm going to trust that's what he said. And that's what he meant. And so this is 100% Mike Tomlin. And as we know, Mike Tomlin likes rock fights. He likes to win games 20-17. And that's what this seemed to me. I didn't anticipate that we were all of a sudden going to have an offense, like the Dolphins or the Chiefs, and have guys in motion and all this kind of stuff. But I did expect something a little more new, and this is not that. Now, that doesn't mean this can't be good. I'm not saying that. We saw what he did in Tennessee with tight ends, with obviously Derrick Henry. So I'm optimistic, but I wasn't very inspired.
Yeah. And I think you look at what he did in Tennessee, and he took a team, I'll say on paper, very similar to the Steelers, but arguably also not as good as the Steelers with what he had there, right? So you have a former first-round quarterback who kind of flamed out in Miami, with Tannehill. Arguably, Tannehill's probably better than Pickett is, though. Just look at his stats. He was
overall,
yeah. More mobile, threw more touchdowns, all that stuff. So a middling quarterback that he kind of had to resurrect his career, a power running back, and then just an absolute freak of nature wide receiver. And we kind of have those things, but if you look at it also, like, Tannehill's better than Pickett. Derrick Henry's better than Najee is. AJ Brown is better than George Pickens. We have similar things on paper, but they're also not as good. So, maybe our offensive line can be better, although those lines in Tennessee were pretty darn good. There were a few years there where Tennessee had the best line in the league. So
yeah, they were really good.
It's but you're absolutely right. Tomlin wants to win rock fights. And I think the other thing this kind of signaled to me, and I think you wrote about this too, is that they pretty much know what they have in Kenny Pickett at this point, that they've realized you can't just have Kenny Pickett go out there and win games for you, that he's going to have to be in a very structured offense that puts him in positions to succeed. Yep. And, Smith likes to run a lot of play action. Smith likes to run, throws where you have kind of defined reads and roll out, play action rollouts where you have, option A, option B, make it an easier read on the quarterback. He's not just going to drop back there and be like, scan the whole field and see what's open. That's not the kind of offense that we're bringing.
And that's exactly what my next question was going to be, is how does this hire impact Kenny Pickett? How does this hire reflect on how they feel about Kenny Pickett? And, play action, I'll be really curious to see how often he gets his back turned to the line of scrimmage, because we know one of his major issues, I really believe, was just his inability to get through the progressions and then to get rid of the ball, which is something that we saw Mason Rudolph do. And Mason, obviously more experienced guy, and just felt more comfortable being able to say A, B, C, boom, that's where I'm going with it. So I'm curious. I think these things can help Kenny Pickett, but I don't know. Jen asks, how does a wide receiver like DJ fit into his offense? He can fit into it. I mean, he can fit into anything as far as I'm concerned. The question will be, what's his mindset going to be? And George Pickens too, because when you see this guy's your new OC, the first thing that comes to mind, as I think Melvin said, running the football. So we know both those guys, especially DJ, knows how to run routes. He knows how to separate. So I think that that they'll be able to use some of that play action. They'll still take their deep shots when necessary. But, the one thing, and I'll ask you this, the tight ends, Smith was really good at utilizing tight ends. And how do you anticipate that happening with our guys?
Yeah, well, I'll put a slight asterisk on that too with really good, because he does work them into the game, but Atlanta, for the life of them, could not figure out how to use Kyle Pitts. And Atlanta spent 3 top 10 picks on offensive skill position players between Kyle Pitts at tight end, Bijan Robinson at running back, and Drake London at wide receiver, who were all 3 the first at their position drafted in their respective years. And still, like, their quarterback play was terrible, which, goes into a lot of it. But
it does.
And Drake London was actually pretty good this year before he got hurt. But still, like, Pitts has been inconsistent. Bijan was really good to start the year and then kind of fell into some inconsistency. So there's question marks out there. That Melvin's question about will DJ be back next year is a really good one. We should talk about that at some point. But I don't know. It's just tough to see, like, okay, you ask Kenny Pickett to be a game manager or whatever you want to call it. If you design things to get guys open and he has the gumption to make those throws and you give him the green light to make those throws, I think he can probably make them. The question is that we've talked about is, would he make those throws? Like, there was the one ball to Deontay for the touchdown against the Ravens that in the final game of the year that Mason threw. And we were all like, I don't know if Kenny would throw that ball. Like, does Kenny have the physical ability to make that throw? Yes. Would Kenny Pickett, standing back there, make that throw with the timing and anticipation needed to fit that ball between the 2 defenders and trust his guy to go get it? I don't know. And I think some of this is you got to have a guy who can reinstill some confidence in Kenny, that, like, he's not being shackled anymore of don't turn the ball over, like, go make throws and try and win games.
Speaking of confidence in Kenny, so put yourself in Kenny Pickett's position, because, there are arguments that he lost the locker room, not necessarily because he was a bad person, bad guy, poor leader. It's just when you aren't able to execute, get your guys the ball, score points, you kind of become the guy nobody wants to talk to much in the locker room. Well, what happens if they bring Mason Rudolph back? I mean, we've already heard Deontay Johnson, he's advocating for him to come back. He wants him to be the guy. So Kenny doesn't just have, I've got to learn a new offense, I've got to be able to execute a new offense. I've also got to prove that I'm better than the guy that played better than I did the year before.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when you talk about losing the locker room, 2 years ago, Kenny Pickett's rookie year, they elected Mitch Trubisky as a team captain on offense. Mitch gets benched, 3 games into the year, 4 games into the year against the Jets. Fourth game. Yep. And Kenny takes over the rest of the year. Fast forward to last year, Kenny gets elected team captain, and we're like, all right, well, it's Kenny's team for better or worse. And then, yes, he got hurt, granted, and Trubisky was terrible. But then Mason comes in and plays really well, and Kenny is arguably healthy enough to play, and they keep him on the bench. So, now, granted, I think that was, you had to ride the hot hand because it was the end of the year. They were in the playoff race. If that happens in October, Kenny probably comes back and Mason doesn't keep starting. But I don't know. It's the whole Mason thing's a fascinating question because, here in Pittsburgh, he's going to get an opportunity to compete for the starting job. Is he going to actually get that opportunity anywhere else? And really, anywhere else he goes, is it going to be, we're bringing you in, but we're also probably going to draft a rookie to replace you in a couple games, and you've got a short leash, which is, not the best way to go through a football career, although you can make money. Tyrod Taylor's done pretty well being that guy. Numerous
Chase
places.
Daniel.
Yeah. So you never know, but the Steelers have paid Mason a fair chunk of change. We paid him $6 million the one year to be a backup quarterback.
I believe it was.
Yeah. So, but it is a new offense, and there's the familiarity with Mike Tomlin and some of the coaching staff, depending on what they do with the rest of the offensive coaches. Although based on the articles this week, it sounds like the only changes at offensive coordinator and all the position coaches are staying the same. which raised some other question marks for me of, if you were a new incoming offensive coordinator, wouldn't you want to bring some of your own guys with you, especially if you were a head coach and had guys you liked working with and things like that. So we'll see. I don't know. It's not something that like makes me go real gung ho of like, I'm so excited for this,
Right. To Berner's question, does Mason have a fair shot? I don't know how he couldn't. Now, Mike Tomlin can tell him that, but he also said Kenny Pickett is QB1 in his presser. So I just don't know how you can take a guy like Mason Rudolph who comes in and plays well and get you into the playoffs and just say, okay, Mason, we're going to move you back to number 2 now. Kenny's the guy. I think you have to give it a fair, open competition. I think the hiring of Smith also signals, at least to me, they are not going to draft a quarterback. Some people thought maybe they would. Now they could very late. That's possible.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Like, third, fourth, fifth round seems like the sweet spot to me for.
Yes, I can see that, and I think they're going to roll with Kenny for one more year. They're going to give him the opportunity to work with a different coordinator, see what happens, and then if it doesn't go well, and let's say Mason is just Mason, and maybe he plays and the team is 10-7, 9-8 again, then I think you go with another quarterback again the following year. That's just kind of my gut feeling as to where things are headed. And you were talking a little bit about the coaching staff, and Scarps has talked about it numerous times, how this is one of the smallest coaching staffs in the NFL. And it looks like we're going to continue that way. We need more bodies on our coaching staff. I really believe that. And it looks like Mike Sullivan will be back as the quarterback's coach, unless he gets one of these coordinator jobs. But as of right now, they're starting to get fewer and fewer, and he doesn't have one. What specifically would you like to see brought in, Ian, in terms of coaches?
Like at least a passing game coordinator. It seems like all the teams that have really, advanced offenses have both an offensive coordinator and a passing game coordinator, as well as even just like make up some titles. I don't care. Senior offensive assistant, bring in a guy like a Frank Reich or something like that, maybe, or Jim Caldwell or whatever, one of those more experienced guys. You just give him a title, just give him in the building and kind of have some knowledge in his head. Kind of like they did with Brian Flores, right? He was senior defensive assistant or something. I don't know. Even like a quality control coach or something like that can take a little closer look at what they're doing. The last few years, Tomlin's always talked about after the bye, like, oh, we took this opportunity to do some self-scouting and look at our tendencies and see what was working and what doesn't work. Like, if you hire somebody and make that their job on a week-to-week basis, you can turn that around a lot faster and not have to wait for the actual bye week, and that's just on the offensive side of the ball. But I like Melvin's point too about Vrabel as a senior defensive assistant. That's a very good call. And there's coaches on that side of the ball too that they could definitely add as well. So you're right. They have a small staff overall. They and analytics is what it is, but even if you're looking at like tendencies and things like that, heck, I had a lot of questions this year about their equipment staff, right? We've asked questions about their strength and conditioning staff of, are they rushing guys back from injury too soon? Are they properly preparing their bodies for the grind of the season? The cleats thing this year has been a big question mark. So I think just more bodies in the building would definitely be a good thing, but that comes down to Art in his pocketbook, and is he willing to open it up?
And they did make a change with the strength and conditioning guys. Marcel, who had been there for a long time, he's gone. So that kind of told me maybe a little bit about what you were just saying, that, maybe they just didn't like the overall health of their guys. They needed to get better. And again, injuries are part of the game. Some teams have more than others, and usually it's cyclical, but maybe they finally realize they need to do something different. I don't know. Jen asks, will Arthur Smith grow a beard to go with that mustache since Pittsburgh is cold? Well, I hope not, Jen. I hope he stays with the Scarpino mustache. It's just such a classic look. And by the way, I was surprised that Smith was as young as he is. I thought he was a little older than I think he's in his like early 40s.
He's relatively young, which is kind of funny because we were all like, they need to bring in a young guy. And then it almost reminded me of, remember the year they drafted Senquez Golson, and everyone's like, the Steelers need to draft a cornerback. We need to draft a cornerback. And then they drafted a guy who's like 5'6", and everyone's like, not that guy, draft somebody else. You know? But that's kind of how it felt with Arthur Smith. It was like, we need to find a young guy, and who has some coordinating experience and now it's like, well, not this one,
right? But, well, that's Steeler Nation in a nutshell. Do this. Okay, we did it. Yeah, but not that one. That's just spot on. Were you surprised that they at the very least didn't talk to a few other potential coordinators? I got the feeling that this was their guy. As soon as he was gone from Atlanta, he became the guy.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I thought they would have at least kind of surveyed the market a little bit more and just to kind of see what's out there. And even if you're not going to hire some of these young guys, and maybe they just talk to some of them just to get some more ideas and things like that. But, we've talked about it on the show. This was a tough gig, right? You had to come in, the Steelers weren't moving on from Kenny Pickett this year. So you had to come in, work with a quarterback that you didn't draft or evaluate. Maybe you evaluate for your team, but you haven't been with them the last few years. So you got to work with a quarterback that hasn't worked with you before, who the team invests their first round pick in and still sort of believes in, but isn't sure if he's going to be the guy long term, but wants to give him at least one more shot. You got to go find a veteran backup quarterback in case that guy doesn't work out. If that guy doesn't work out, then you're back to the drawing board in year 2, and you're like, all right, well, I got to go find either a rookie or convince them to spend money on a trade or signing a high-priced free agent veteran, basically to save my job, because if you suck through 2 years, you're probably getting fired in year 3. Or after year 2, depending on how long the contract is. I don't even know. Has Smith officially signed a contract yet? I haven't actually seen it. It's just been reported.
I have not seen it either.
Yeah.
And I would assume it's probably 2 years. Could be 3, but I'm going to guess 2. And to your point, all these coordinators know that your job is only going to go as far as your quarterback's going to take you.
Right.
And that's really what it boils down to. And Arthur Smith is I don't think he's a foolish or dumb person. He sees the situation in Pittsburgh. He knows exactly what he's walking into. And for some of these guys, this is their last opportunity. And so I give him credit. He's taken it. I don't know what other opportunities he had, but we shall see. And see, now what's going to happen here, Ian, is Ben's going to come on now, and we're going to have to go over all this stuff again because he was late. So let's bring him on board here. Yeah. Oh, welcome, Ben.
What's up?
You everything all right there?
I had some issues.
All right. Well, since we're live on the air, we won't go into those issues. But anyway, good to see you. What are you drinking tonight?
City Dreams Pale Ale.
So, nice. Like a good pale ale. City Dreams. Is that an Oregon thing?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Who makes this? Shit, I don't know. Fort George. It's Washington.
Nice of you to join us, Benjamin. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah. By the way, are you floating out there right now in Portland?
No. Why?
No. I heard you're getting a lot of weather. A lot of what do they call that? An atmospheric river or something like that?
No. It's been dry today, so.
Oh, good for you. Okay.
No idea.
Excellent. Ben, I would. We've spent most of the first 25 minutes here just talking a little bit about Arthur Smith and the the reaction, the impact it could or couldn't have on Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. What is your overall opinion of this hire and where you kind of stand right now?
It's not the dynamic young offensive mind with a history for developing quarterbacks that we were hoping for. But the other side of it is I'm trying to see this as kind of a glass half full type deal. He has used some pretty dynamic blocking schemes and had a very well-developed run game. He's also used the tight end very well in his previous stints. And he made Ryan Tannehill look good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's be honest. And Ryan Tannehill is not good. So he has a history for making middling quarterback play work, which is why I think they hired him. They clearly don't have any faith in their quarterback room. Would you? Me either. I'm just being honest, man. I'm just
Guilty.
being straight with you guys.
Guilty.
Yeah. I just I don't think
lost Ian there.
I don't think they have a lot of faith in am I out?
No, you're fine. Ian, his video
Ian
dropped. His audio is still there, I think. But
okay.
yeah.
So all of a sudden there are two of us. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I think this hire basically screams, okay, we're going to use a run game.
Yeah.
Which means they're probably going to give Najee his fifth-year option, which I have some mixed feelings about that. I prefer that they just went ahead and extended him now with a year left on his deal rather than giving him the fifth-year option.
Right.
Just control the structure, because if they give him the fifth-year option in May, he is tethered to the team through 25. If they extended him this year, and then he had a bad 24, there's a possibility they could be out of it after a year. So, and I'm not saying that Najee's going to have a bad year. I'm not saying that at all. I don't see a very explosive, dynamic runner there.
No.
I've been on record saying he needs to lose 20 pounds. It's not like the guy is fat at all.
Oh, no.
But
yeah.
He needs to go the left bell route and lose 20 pounds and get his burst back.
That's the other thing about the Arthur Smith offense, though. He likes to run outside a lot, which that can work with Jalen Warren, but worries me a little bit with Naj.
For sure. He and a lot of what he runs is wide zone.
Mm-hmm.
But he also runs traps and duo, and he does run some gap. The thing you're going to find is he mixes the blocking schemes really well, which is nice. I don't know if Pat Meyer can adapt to that, and I don't like the way Pat Meyer teaches pass pro. Have you guys talked about Munchak yet?
No.
Okay.
No. Feel
does
free.
Everybody realize that Mike Munchak was never coming back? That was never a thing. That was something some guy who was on Pony's show put out in the universe, and Steelers Twitter ran with it. Yeah, they should hire Arthur Smith. Munchak will come back. No, man, that was never a thing. It was never. No.
We've talked about this before, and we all know Mike Munchak, Hall of Fame player.
Good coach too.
Really, really good coach. When he was with the Steelers, though, the rushing attack, I don't believe was any better than about 13, 14 during his time here. Which isn't bad, but I think people had this idea that Munchak had us running the ball at will,
but there's context there. There's context,
yes, there is.
Okay?
Yep.
Our yards per carry was very high during
much better than it was.
Okay, yeah. What the Steelers utilized during that period, a lot of what they utilized were short passes to Lev Bell because he was a good receiver out of the backfield, and if you got him out in space, he could do some damage. So context is necessary there. 13, 14, yes, but Lev Bell made shit happen when he got the ball in his hands, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had blockers in front of him that could create holes for him the way he needed holes created for him. And part of that also was Munchak I wouldn't say he was a run game coordinator, but he was very involved in the game plan every week. And what he did was he geared it toward his guys' strengths, his players' strengths. We can run this to this side and this to this side, and we can run traps this way because the Castro's good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And Pouncey can get out in space around here, around the edge. And he did it that way. He geared it toward his players. He didn't say, you guys are going to run this. He said, let's run this because my guys are good at this.
Does his Smith's arrival, Ian, I'll ask you this first. Do you think that kind of brings the prospect of drafting an offensive lineman in the first round that much more to reality, let's say?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely in the wheelhouse now, because the other thing that we didn't talk about yet is Smith's blocking schemes really rely on an athletic center to make things happen. And Mason Cole is not that dude, but there are some pretty good ones in the draft this year.
There are.
Yep. Good centers, good tackles. Cabali, excuse me, or Mike DeFabo. They profiled the kid out of West Virginia who, he's
a local kid, so they want to hype him. He's not the only center, and there are a handful. The kid from Georgia, the kid from Oregon.
Yep.
There's the kid from Michigan, for that matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I would be fine with, and I really think, based on the strength of the tackle position, they're probably going to be more likely to have a pretty decent tackle sitting there at 20 should they sit at that spot.
I think they can get a center there, to be honest. I don't think they're
I think they can. I just think it's going to be a matter of, where does that top center, and I think most people seem to think it's the kid from Oregon, another JPJ, by the way. Would he go before that? And if he does, then does it shift your focus to tackle and then center in the second round?
The hype on him right now is that he'll go top 15. He's a really good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to get that kid if we could. I guess we'll just see how it falls. I mean, TJ Watt fell to 30, right?
Yeah,
so you just never know. You just never know.
David DeCastro fell to 24, right?
Oh, God, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
Or 22 somewhere. Yeah.
Yep. It was 20.
Interior linemen tend to
fall. The guy
fall.
Dallas took before TJ Watt.
Taco Charlton.
Who came and played for us for a year. Yeah.
Yep.
Practice squad guy for the Steelers later.
I don't think he's in the league anymore.
He's not.
I mean, that you talk about just crazy. I mean, that's the NFL draft in a nutshell.
I think they should move Jones back to left tackle. They should sign a right tackle, or perfect world, sign a tight end and move Darnell Washington to tight end to tackle. That's what I'd love to see happen. Probably isn't going to happen this year.
Yeah.
Given the fact that that Smith relies so much on tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Through tight ends, I don't see Washington being moved unless they think they can get another guy. And then I don't know what they're going to do with Little Hayward, because he's not a tight end. He's an H-back.
No, he's not. He's not, and he's going to have to block, I think, a lot more than he did in the Canada system.
He's going to have to learn to block.
Well, that's exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be nice to bring back a fullback too. Especially for those like short yardage situations where like Naj got stuffed so many times, like right at the line, where it was like, man, if he could just follow somebody through the hole, that'd be really sweet.
Well, the question there is, how many of these Kyle Juszczyk guys are still around anymore?
I don't. Looking at the tape from what Smith did in Tennessee and in Atlanta, he doesn't use a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
He runs a lot of stuff out of the pistol. Quick hands,
you're right.
Wide zone runs.
I love the pistol formation, by the way. That's just
I'm fine with it. And,
yeah.
If it's efficient, great, do it. But yeah, he runs a lot of stuff out of the pistol, wide zone runs that, bang. And it requires a running back who has some burst. And if Najee didn't get that back, well, You see where I'm going with it?
I'll be curious in that. Maybe that's going to be part of his offseason regimen is, hey, Naj, we need you to drop 20, buddy.
Maybe.
It could be.
Even Derrick Henry had superior burst to what Najee had last season.
Yeah, Henry's a freak. I mean, a man that large.
People that big shouldn't be able to move that fast.
No, they shouldn't have that speed top end. They shouldn't have that burst. I mean, it's criminal.
That dude.
But yeah, it is what it is.
He's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, he is. Do you guys think, is it more likely the Steelers would draft a tackle and a center, or do you think they might go the free agent route with one of those two positions?
If they go the free go ahead, Ben.
I think they'll look at both, Mark. I think they'll just try to fill holes based upon who's available and whether or not they want to pay them what the market yields, you know, what their market is. And then when they're done, they'll go to the draft and try and fill the rest of it. I don't know, Ian.
No, I think because of the premium on the tackle position and how much those guys get paid, that it's more likely they draft a tackle and try and sign an interior lineman in free agency, because you can get decent center guards for $6 to $10 million on the free agent market versus a tackle you're probably looking 15 to 20 million a year you'd have to spend. Like, look what Chooks got. So
Speaking of free agents, are about to be free agents.
Yeah, you know what else I would love to see us bring back is a true slot wide receiver. That's something we really haven't had the last couple years. And
Jericho Cotchery type guy who just gets those little 7-yard routes and takes them.
Yeah. Or even someone like an Eli Rogers who was small and quick in tight spaces and could just fill in those zones. And like, you knew you could find him over the middle. He wasn't going to burn anybody deep, but you could just find him on those quick little hitters and he'd get you a couple yards.
And that's one of the things that Austin can do is burn people deep. I don't know why they didn't try and run some more deep routes to that kid this year. It's like,
seems like with him, we saw the one big shot they connected on, I think, in Vegas, and then they tried it one other time and it didn't go well. And then it's like they scrapped it,
And I think that gets back to Canada. I think it really was Canada being so averse to turnovers that, they threw the interception on it once. And he was like, never again.
Right. I agree 100% about a slot guy. And there's some really nice potential
we all know,
guys in that.
We know Allen Robinson's not coming back either at $10 million. Right?
Oh, my God, no.
I mean, watching that guy struggle to try and create separation is just like, why did we trade for this guy? I don't care if he only costs $5 million. That's a waste of $5 million.
It was.
I know that
was a hope and a wish type.
They
trade.
hoped that he would provide leadership to a young group. That obviously didn't work.
I mean, I think everything I've heard about him from the media, the guys that we talked to, just an outstanding guy.
Yeah.
Did everything right, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, the poor guy could not separate. If he did catch a ball, he wasn't going anywhere. He was going to be tackled immediately.
His change of direction speed is gone.
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy for a corner to catch up if he's even behind ever.
Right. Why do you guys think? And I'm going to assume quarterback play, and we mentioned this a little while ago. But why do you guys think Arthur Smith struggled so much, especially to utilize a kid like Bijan Robinson?
I don't have an answer for that. I do not know, because you look at Robinson and you're like, was he trying to bring him in slow because, those kids play 12 games a year and now they got to play 17.
Because there was just games where he hardly got any touches and he was healthy.
Yeah. I I can't speak to that. I have no idea. I think maybe they were trying to pace him. Tomlin does that with rookies too. Like he'll bring him in slowly because it's going to be a long season.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
And he knows that. And so he'll try to bring them along a little slower. And then when they're on, it's like, okay, now it's time. It's time for you to go. You're going to learn on the job. You're going to, trial by fire, baptism by fire, however you want to put it. JPJ, he did that. And people faulted him for it. And I'm like, nah, that kid would have hit the wall at the end of the season. When you really need to play well is December. About Thanksgiving, you need to be peaking.
Yeah, you should kick it in right about that time.
Yeah, you need to be peaking right about Thanksgiving, and you need to play well throughout the end of the season. And if he had Porter starting week 1 by the end of the year, he would have been. He would have hit the wall. The rookie wall would have been a thing.
I want to address, somebody asked this much earlier in the show, and I meant to get to it, but someone asked, are we happy that the Ravens lost?
Well, I'm always happy when the Ravens lose.
Well, yeah.
I'm not thrilled that the Chiefs won.
Exactly.
But,
it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other. But yes, I'm glad the Ravens lost. Any chance I get to see John Harbaugh, just walk off the field in misery is fantastic. But now we're stuck with more of this Chief stuff. And hey, credit to him. Andy Reid's done a magnificent job. At the beginning of the postseason, I didn't think they'd get back. I just thought they had too many question marks on offense, especially with those
they have
receivers.
Mahomes.
And Mahomes is Mahomes.
They have Mahomes. And
like him or not, the guy is a gamer.
I think they're going to win the whole thing.
I do too. They just have to limit San Francisco's running even a little bit. And I think they'll be fine.
I think they're going to win the whole damn thing. And, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not psyched about that.
No.
I guess I'm a little annoyed by Taylor Swift, but not the way that people on Twitter are. My God.
Some people are losing their minds.
Did she hurt your feelings that bad? Really? I remember when Jessica Simpson was at games for Romo.
Yes.
We thought it was funny.
Yes.
Nobody got pissed off. Nobody was up in arms. We thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
My God.
Yeah.
Was that
I'm going to use a big word here that Ian will understand. The vitriol that this has generated.
Vitriol.
Oh my God. The flat out hatred. You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, it's not that big a deal. If you're really pissed off, just ignore it.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
Was that Jessica Simpson thing? Was that 2008 when he came here and threw that interception that Jay ran back for a touchdown?
Yes.
Yes.
I
think she was at the game. I think she was
too.
Didn't they go partying in Mexico or something the week before that game?
Cabo. No.
Yeah.
That was a week before a playoff game.
That was before a playoff game.
Okay.
Yeah. That was that was big.
That was the week before a playoff game, and then she allegedly had a Barbie and Ken themed birthday party for herself. And when he found out what the theme was, he left, and then they broke up.
Well, Jim, I didn't want to go to a Barbie party, so now I'm here with you.
So now Melvin says he was at that game. No doubt.
I was at that game too.
No doubt, clearly there to see Jessica Simpson. So that means Melvin saw the Steelers and Cowboys back to back at Heinz Field, because that's
Bozick was at that game too. He was at that game with his dad. He's told me the story many times. He also said he was on the visitor's side, on the windy side.
The windy side.
Freezing is
my side of the field. Yeah, it was a cold game.
Yeah, it was a cold game and it was windy, and he said it was freezing. He said it was awful and horrible, but it was worth it.
I was going to bring this up later, but since we're talking stadium a little bit, Art too this past week on Monday said that the lease is up in 2030, but he would like to stay another 10 to 20 years there. We've joked about moving out to Cranberry and building some big facility or something like that. What do you think? You're a season ticket holder. I mean, was there anything to read between the lines there, or was Art just being Art?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, Art's cheap, right? And we've talked about that on the show before. He doesn't like to spend money, right?
Right.
And if they build a new stadium, they're going to have to spend a lot of money or get a lot of money given to them by some public entity.
Yep.
But they're still going to have to pony up some serious cash to do it. So saying that they want to stay longer than what their current lease is, there's probably also some financials that go into it. And they've made some improvements to the stadium, and they're still kind of fighting with the Sports and Exhibition Authority about, who pays for what and what they have to pay leases on now with additional seats and things like that. But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, at some point they're going to have to build another stadium. And Ryan's talked about this too right now, that the Steelers with what they have are kind of getting left behind with a lot of the other NFL teams as far as not only stadium, but also just facility wise, that they really can only use the stadium for a handful of times out of the Steelers use it, Pitt uses it. They have a couple concerts there, but only like the really big ones, but it's not like this whole complex, right? The team offices are somewhere else, their practice facilities somewhere else.
Yep.
That it's not really their thing.
No. And I hate to use the example, but you look at Dallas, everything's right there.
Yeah.
Well,
and even Seattle and other places, right? Like everything is together. In Vegas and LA and all these new stadiums or these giant entertainment complexes that have retractable roofs, so you can do indoor and outdoor, and
even Seattle. We were there this year. They've got all of this entertainment space around the stadium where people can go in and they can pre-funk, and it's cool. I mean, I'm not going to lie, and you can use that for event space, and you can have different things there. They can have a freaking convention there if they wanted to. It's very cool space.
It looked like San Francisco Levi Stadium is built the same way. It looks like there's all kinds of attractions right around it too.
Yeah, it's cool as hell. It's I'm sorry, a far better stadium than Heinz Field is, which I love Heinz, but it's just, you've got a limited amount of space there, and you can only do so much. I think you could build onto it, and if it were me, I don't know. One of the things I would do is I'd probably close the north end corners.
Yeah.
That's me. It would diminish the wind, and people would bitch about that because it takes away the advantage, blah, blah, blah. But it would also make the damn stadium louder. And one of the things that I miss about Three Rivers was it was so damn loud. Three Rivers was awesome.
You could feel that place shaking.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
It was amazing. And I miss that about it. That's my 2 cents. I know they're not going to completely enclose the open end because they want to preserve the view of the city. I get it. So close the other end. Put some more seats in, all that, and just make it noisier. Make the damn thing louder because that's what's missing.
I'm right with you.
The crazy thing is, two of the loudest stadiums, Arrowhead in Kansas City and whatever the hell Seattle's is called now, are both open air, not dome, stadiums. But
it's just architecturally, especially Lumen, it catches the sound on either side and bounces it back to the other. It was designed with that in mind.
And they did a hell of a job.
I think with Arrowhead, it just happened that way. I think they did it by accident. Maybe I'm wrong.
I would agree with that. I don't think there was any.
They built that thing in the 70s, didn't they?
Yeah, it was kind of the same year as the baseball stadium. Didn't they kind of open together?
They've renovated Arrowhead a handful of times.
Right.
Sunk millions of dollars into it, obviously. But I think it's still the original stadium. It's just like Soldier Field for the longest time.
Let me get back to football here a little bit. If you look, we've talked a lot about Arthur Smith here and everything else. I think Isaac Suomalu improved his play as much as anybody on that offensive line as the season wore on. I mean, he was burying people, and
I thought he was pretty solid all year.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he was bad. I just think he
Yeah.
got even better as the year went on.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
And I think that he's going to be your anchor. Obviously, Daniels will be back, and Jones hopefully would get slid back over to his more natural left tackle spot. I'm just excited and optimistic that they're going to be able to plug some people in there. You know, again,
so that's the way it works now.
Well, what are you playing with the screen thing there?
Yeah, no, you turn off your camera and it takes you off the screen, where before it used to leave a black screen where you were before.
Right. Okay.
Cool. So StreamYard's updated.
Hey, small wonders, right?
Yeah. It's the off season for all of us.
It
right?
Sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is. And congratulations, by the way, to Miles Killebrew, the all-pro special teamer from the Steelers and Pro Bowler. He apparently tonight won a competition at the Pro Bowl games. He caught 6 punts. He had all 6 balls in his arms at the same time. In other words, he'd catch one and have to hold on to it. Then he'd catch a second, holding both. So who knew he had such a talent? And furthermore, who knew the Pro Bowl games were even tonight? Because I sure didn't.
No, me either.
I that's for the kids apparently. And then when's like the flag football Pro Bowl things? That Sunday?
I don't know.
I don't know. You know the guy who knows this stuff is Aaron.
Aaron knows this shit.
In between
Aaron,
pro wrestling, he watches this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to tell you, Aaron's really into pro wrestling, so I can see where he'd be into the Pro Bowl games.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Just makes sense. Yeah.
It's sports entertainment.
Yeah, totally.
I made the mistake of trying to describe to my kids who The Rock was, and then had to show them some videos, and then all week they've been trying to do rock bottoms off the couch, and I've had to try stopping them. So yeah.
Outstanding.
I couldn't name you a single wrestler who's still doing it today, but ask me about Stone Cold and The Rock and Shawn Michaels and those guys, and I could probably hold a conversation.
Right? Yeah. That even that was after my time. I still talk about the Junkyard Dog,
Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, Sergeant Slaughter. He was funny.
That's going back.
I think he follows me on Twitter. I'm pretty sure he does.
Sergeant Slaughter got kicked out of the WWF when it was still WWF.
Yes.
For making it real.
Well, a lot of those guys were trying to make it real.
So they threw him out because he wasn't sticking to the script.
Right. Undertaker's a bad dude. Now that character was good. Yeah, Vinny's right. That guy. So the one spot that obviously Tomlin and the group, the entourage, if you will, they're down there in Mobile right now at the Senior Bowl. Today was kind of the last practice. I think they have a walkthrough tomorrow and then play the game. Linebackers, inside linebackers. I haven't heard much talk about them. I know Alan and Nick from Steelers Now are both down there in Mobile, and I know they got their hands full doing what they're doing, but I haven't seen anyone really talk about inside linebackers. Am I missing something there? Don't we need some guys there?
Yeah,
they've got a good Ben.
The linebackers aren't that great this year.
Coming out in the draft.
Yeah. There's some nice defensive linemen, nice offensive linemen. There's some pretty good wide receivers and corners. The linebackers are okay. The quarterbacks that have gone down to the Senior Bowl, my understanding is that they've underwhelmed.
Yes, it hasn't been well.
So I don't think we're going to hear a lot about linebackers. Do I think we need a linebacker? That wouldn't hurt my feelings any. Do I think they're actually going to go out and get one? Probably not. I think they're going to go offensive line, defensive line, heavy in the draft and in free agency, and they'll try and plug some holes via free agency before that.
Ian had pointed out in our discussion earlier the number of pretty good inside linebackers that are going to be available in free agency. Unfortunately, they're going to come with some pretty hefty price tags too. Devin White, Willie Gay, Cashman.
I like Willie Gay.
I do too. I think for his price, I think he could be an option. I'm worried he might not be great in coverage, which is a guy we need, but yeah, he is really good.
Well, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaws don't grow on trees.
Right. No, they sure don't.
Completely unfair that San Francisco got two of them.
Fred Warner deserves $20 million a year, 2021.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to be able to keep both. I mean, let's be honest.
Honestly, I know everyone's talking about Miles and TJ for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be no qualms if Fred Warner
got
it.
I agree with you.
Watching that dude play is just
If Fred Warner won it and TJ didn't, I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
okay. I guess I can see that. If Garrett wins it and Watt doesn't, I'm gonna be like, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
that guy disappears in big fucking games.
Yep,
he doesn't put up the stats. PFF, he's their little darling.
Oh, he's BS. He's the darling of the national media right now. I don't know what it is. If they've got a press junket or something that's paying these press people, it's just Myles Garrett all the time. There was a funny moment in the NFC title game this weekend when Warner made a play and he kind of got up and stood over the ball carrier, and you could see the official come in and he's like, "Fred, don't do it, Fred. Don't do it. I'm going to flag you." And Fred's like, I'm just fired up. It was funny because, you lose track of these guys, man. They're just, for 3 hours a week, we tell them to go kill people and then not expect them to be excited about it, So yeah, I thought that was funny.
On the inside linebackers, I think it's worth noting. So Landon Roberts, 1 year left on his contract, $4.5 million cap hit.
Yeah,
that dude.
Cole Holcomb, 2 years left with a $7.5 million cap hit. So that's a question mark if Holcomb's going to come back. Robinson, 2 years left on his rookie deal, and that's it. Everybody else is a free agent. So if they want Quan Alexander back, they're going to have to re-sign him because he's a free agent. The other guys can all go.
I don't think that Quan Alexander is going to have a big price tag, man.
I don't either.
No.
I thought that he would. When he started playing, I was like, damn, this guy's good.
Oh, he played so
when he can be healthy, he is good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But he can't stay healthy, so he's not going to have a big price tag. So I expect him back. He likes playing in Pittsburgh. He likes his defense. It's not going to change.
No.
He likes his teammates.
Yeah. And I'd keep Roberts, I'd keep Robinson, I'd bring Alexander back. I mean, but $7.5 million for Cole Holcomb's a pretty hefty price tag for what he brings to the table. Especially when you're getting other guys for half that.
Is Robinson, though, is he just what he is by now, though? I mean, is he really going to turn a corner and all of a sudden be a guy you can depend on? I just don't see it.
I mean, he played running back in college. He's still pretty new to the defensive side of the ball.
Good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I don't think he has the athleticism to ever be, a coverage type guy, but can he be a poor man's Vince Williams? Can he be that thumper guy? Maybe. And that's kind of where I'd go with him. That if I'm going to paraphrase something Ben has said before on this show.
Mm-hmm.
If you could take Robert Spillane's brain and put it in Mark Robinson's body, you'd actually have a pretty decent linebacker. Because I felt like Spillane
I didn't want to say that Robinson's not smart, but he's not.
He hasn't learned how to read the play yet.
No, he hasn't. And he doesn't have great change of direction speed. And if you're not reading the play from the jump and you don't have great change of direction speed, that's going to be tough for you. That's a difficult spot. The nice thing when you're playing inside linebacker for the Steelers is you can literally make any play on the field if you read the play in time.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's geared. But if you don't, nah.
And that's another area we talked about. I think it was just about the time you came on, Ben. We were talking about how small this coaching staff is, and there's so many areas it would be nice to get a couple extra coaches in there. And another one of those areas is obviously you have a secondary coach and stuff, but somebody that works just primarily with zone coverage and just helping guys understand concepts and where to be and how to read and things like that. I don't know that we do that very well.
Primarily the linebackers. I mean, even TJ, they drop to a spot.
Yeah.
They drop to a spot and they watch the quarterback.
Yeah.
They're
like, get on your horse, get to your spot.
But they're covering grass. They're not covering a player. They're covering grass and they're waiting for the ball to come out. And I wish there was a little bit more player coverage involved.
Yeah.
Really, really, really do. Because what they do, offensive coordinators, what they do is that since they know the way the Steelers play zone, they look for soft spots between those two players and they throw the ball there. They tell the receiver to go get it. So they're going to get at least 7-8 yards on every one of those because we cover grass. We don't cover players.
And San Francisco is a great example. They play a lot of zone and they're around the ball all the time.
Yes. But they've also got guys that can break on the ball pretty fast. So
true.
Not everybody's
personnel.
Not everybody can push off the ball off their spot like TJ or Nick Herbig, for that matter, who I think should be an off the ball linebacker. I don't know why they didn't move him this season. It's like you got a guy who can cover players out of the backfield if you let him, but you want to make him a pass rusher. I get wanting to make him a pass rusher because those are at a premium. I understand it. But you also need an off-the-ball linebacker. You need a guy who can cover. So why didn't you move him there? Because you got two guys already that can rush the passer.
Right.
Three. Right. Golden. Sorry.
And you guys both anticipate Golden's back next year?
I don't know. That's a tough call. I mean, you got to have three guys at least in that rotation just because of injuries and everything else. But I mean, Herbig showed some stuff this year. I think he might be the number 3 guy next year. And then you're trying to sign a veteran to be your number 4 for veteran minimum salary. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Golden back, but I don't know if he's going to want to try and go out and be a starter somewhere.
Yeah.
Golden. What's Golden? He's not going to start any place. I just don't.
He's not a spring chicken either. What is this, his 9th year?
He's not a spring chicken, but you've got teams that are desperate for pass rushers that someone might throw some money at him.
Golden's got one move.
And the Steelers typically draft an edge guy somewhere in the draft. I mean, it's just what they do.
I suppose.
I don't know.
Again, I'd move Herbig to inside linebacker. And if you want to make him a guy, he's too young. If he had a little more,
do you think part of the reason they haven't, maybe he just doesn't have the expertise in coverage?
Yeah, no. Well, maybe but he's got the raw ability. My thinking is he just doesn't know the defense well enough to play both spots, right? So he can't do the Arthur Moats thing. When he's been in the league a little bit longer, you can have him play both. My thing, just last year in camp, just move the kid because he's got those kinds of abilities. Even if for a season all he's doing is just playing, he's a coverage linebacker. At least you have one, because right now they got nothing.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, there is nothing. Absolutely nothing. What before we wrap things up today, what is a fair expectation goal for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense under Arthur Smith in terms of where would you look at it at the end of 2024 and say, yeah, you know what, that's pretty solid.
27 points per game I'd be really happy with.
27 points per game would be outstanding. That's not happening.
I would do cartwheels for that.
Yeah, I'd say 25 might be a fair goal.
If you recall, we all said, I wish Scarps was here right now because he'd be going off. We all said that 25 points per game would be acceptable this year. 25 points per game would be acceptable this year for this offense. And that didn't happen.
No.
Needless to say. I don't even.
But we actually said it wouldn't happen because that would be a huge jump from the year before. Right?
Well,
remember, because we said if you got to 25 points a game in 2023, that meant that we would have gone up 7 points per game because we averaged about 18 points per game in 2022.
Correct.
And I think, what did we end up this year? 19, 20?
Ian, do you know? Because I honestly don't.
I was actually just looking it up, but it wasn't even that. Yeah.
Was it less than that?
Oh yeah. We were around like 17 before Mason got the job.
Okay.
And then
Call
we put
Rudy.
up 30 a couple weeks, but no, it was pretty low.
Okay. Well, so again, if you are planning on our offense taking that jump, then you're talking about roughly a full touchdown a game. And in previous years, usually only one team a year ever makes that jump. And the year prior, it was the Lions, under a really good offense and a good offensive coordinator. So that would be amazing to be able to do that.
It was 17.9 was what we finished at.
That's what's okay. So 18 points a game.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it got worse because it was 18.1 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, you could say that the offense was crappy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But hey, at least Art got something out of that $700,000 he was spending on offensive coordinator, rather than firing the guy.
It's funny you mentioned the contract for Arthur Smith. I'll be curious to see what the numbers are.
I
don't know.
Atlanta averaged a blistering 18.9 points per year.
Hey.
Points per game last year. So a full point better than us last year. So we got that to look forward to.
Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, ungood.
No. And unfortunately, as a coach, you are tied to the success of your quarterback.
100%. And that's the thing that
Smith
people
just didn't have it.
Yes, coaching matters, but great players make good coaches.
Sure.
The end.
Yeah.
Great players make good coaches.
Guys, we don't have any games to predict this week, and we don't have any Casey Kasem this week.
Wait a minute.
Either.
You don't want to predict the Pro Bowl outcome?
Well, I was going to get there, but actually I wasn't.
I don't care.
Where are they this year? Are they in Orlando this year? Is that because last year it was Vegas, and maybe it is. Is that where they're just I did have to laugh. The NFL put out did you see the message the NFL put out that the teams San Francisco and Kansas City are to abide by the official rules, and there is to be no gambling while they're in Las Vegas.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
So why'd they put the Super Bowl there? Like, this is the dumbest thing.
It's just asinine.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. You tell these guys you're going to Vegas, but you can't go
gamble. The NFL would never accept any money from any of these gambling sites either, right? In any kind of endorsements.
No. Absolutely not.
No, they wouldn't want to mix the. No.
Did you ever think that you'd see a guy like Phil Simms or Boomer Esiason standing there in the pregame talking about, FanDuel's got Travis Kelce at 4.5 catches. I'll take the over.
No.
I've never dreamed you would see that. Never. And here it is.
Basically, soccer is what did it.
Really?
It becoming such a big thing in Europe and
gambling
soccer generating so much money and those teams getting involved in it and taking a share of it. NFL look at that going, oh shit, we're leaving money on the table because this is going to happen. People are going to gamble
on the table.
No matter what.
We're losing a lot of money, but hey, players, don't you do it.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
there were reports that came out at the end of last year about what states were bringing in gambling revenue since they legalized. I think Pennsylvania was like 3rd or 4th in the nation in how much tax revenue they brought in from gambling. And it's like, well, okay.
We're legalized sports
Not
gambling
surprised.
too here, and the commercials are nonstop. I mean, even in situations where it's not games. I mean, during the freaking local news, you'll get commercials for Bet Rivers Casino and FanDuel and all this stuff. It's unbelievable. But it is what it is. You know, not gonna get too emotionally wrapped up in it. But any parting shots tonight, gentlemen?
My daughter is still awake.
Yeah, you're in for an evening.
It's 11:15, and how old is she?
3.
Ooh,
good luck.
Man.
Yeah, she fell asleep like right after dinner tonight at like 6 o'clock and slept till like 8:30, and then woke up and was like, "I'm awake now," and I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be terrible."
Well, good luck with that, Ian.
Maggie, you want to come say bye to my friends?
Yeah.
All right. Well, here, they can't see you. Come over here. Here, say bye to everybody.
Goodbye.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thanks as always. We'll be here all off season long. We'll start diving into the draft a little more each week. I've got the drafts up for all of our draft profiles, so we'll start knocking out some of those, start watching some film and get that stuff going. So check it out at the website, steelcityblitz.com. Make sure you check out the socials on Instagram, Facebook, X, or whatever the hell it is, and all that other stuff. And as always, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
Yes.